Welcome friends to another r/AmITheJerk video. We've got some tough questions to ponder, and the one question I have is, could you hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our first story of the day is by Kid Throwaway 76. Am I the jerk for refusing to take 50% custody after my children left themselves? I know the title makes me sound like a jerk, but hear me out. I, 35, female, have 3 children with my ex-boyfriend, 37-year-old male. We've had 50-50 custody since our last daughter, 7 years of age. June of 2021, he asked for 100% custody, and of course, I refused. He threatened me saying he would get it. That Sunday when I got them for my week, my children were angry and accused me of kidnapping them. The whole week, they were too much, so I gave him 100% custody while agreeing to pay child support. It was summer, so of course they were having lots of fun, and since his new girlfriend couldn't have children, it was like a perfect situation for them. Well, I moved out of the house, got an apartment where I could easily pay rent, and began living my best life. It got kind of lonely, but I reminded myself it was just me, and I was free to do anything I want. Well, once school started, problems rose at their house. He didn't know what to do when it came to school, as I covered all of it. I gave him a binder with everything he would need to do. Well, since January, the kids and my ex have been begging to go back to 50-50, and I've refused every time. His reasons are 1, they can't have bedtime with them in the house, 2, working with the school for grades is too complicated, 3, he can't discipline them, 4, they expect an allowance, 5, he's sorry for threatening me. I still refused and told them they made their choice. Well, he told my family, and I'm getting messages from everyone for not taking the kids back. So, am I the jerk? Although, I think I kind of understand the hesitancy because the ex basically said, "Oh, I don't know how to do any of this, take them back, please." I do personally think OP's the jerk because at the cost of not wanting to bail your ex out, you're essentially pushing your kids away and not trying to be in their lives. In fact, I would say probably both sides are the jerks here. What do you guys think? Is OP the jerk in this situation? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Our next story is by Statistician Pale 9987. Am I the jerk for not accepting my child's relationship? So my daughter, 16-year-old female, had a best friend Mur, 16-year-old female, since she was 9 years old. They were so close, Mur had a key to our house and everything. Sometimes she would come over when my daughter wasn't even around because that's how close she was to the rest of our family. She even went with us to family reunions. Well, recently, Mur got a boyfriend. She would bring him around our house sometimes, and I could tell that my daughter had a crush on him, but I assumed it was small and innocent and nothing would come of it. Well, one day, Mur pulled into our driveway like a crazy woman and accidentally hit our garage. When I came out, she had boxes of stuff and was shaking so bad she could barely walk. When I looked inside the boxes, they were all my daughter's stuff from over the years. I'm talking about toys that she still had from when they were 9. I didn't know what happened, but I could tell she was distraught. So I helped her get all of the boxes from out of her car and pulled her inside for a cup of tea. After about 15 minutes, she said, "Did you know?" Turns out, my daughter had slept with her boyfriend multiple times, and that she found out by a voicemail my daughter left her boyfriend that Mur saw and listened to. When I confronted my daughter, she had no defense. I asked her what was next, and she said that she was going to get with him because if she didn't, they ruined 2 relationships for nothing. I was and still am appalled, and that was 5 months ago. Soon, my family and I are going on a family vacation, and all my other children's partners are invited. But I told my daughter that hers wasn't. She blew up at me and then cried, "When am I ever going to forgive her?" I told her it would have been one thing if she had slept with a boyfriend once. It still would have been terrible, but at least she could have learned from her mistake and grown. Instead, she slept with him multiple times, and the fact that she's still dating him proves she isn't sorry for what she did. My husband says this treatment of her relationship is only going to cause a strain in our own, but I just can't believe how selfish and cruel she's become. I've spent thousands of dollars on this trip. I think I have the right to not invite people I don't want there. And I'm sorry if 5 months of her new boyfriend isn't going to erase her 7 years of friendship with Mur. I still talk to Mur sometimes and she's doing a lot better now, but when it first happened, her mental health was ruined. And even as she's doing better and going to therapy, the mental effects of this level of betrayal is probably going to last years to fully get over. She says she's still hurt by what happened. Every time I look at my daughter, I'm honestly disgusted. This is not the type of person I raised her to be, and she's not sorry for any of it. I refuse to walk around on eggshells around my daughter and her boyfriend for a vacation I'm paying and chaperoning for. Just seeing them together makes me sick. This is a really difficult situation. On one hand, I really get it because Mur's like an honorary child of yours almost that's been around you almost all throughout raising your kid. So seeing them get betrayed like that, it's hard for you to forgive who betrayed them. It's your own daughter that did it. I think OP's not the jerk because I feel like the emotions and the feelings about this are super valid. And also, it's kind of weird to invite a 16-year-old's boyfriend with them on a family vacation anyways. This next story is by CarelessTrack7897. Am I the jerk for going off on my husband and causing him to cry for keeping my dog tied outside while I was gone? Context: I have a dog named Leo that I care for solely. Last week, I had to go on a business trip and couldn't find someone to watch him. My husband isn't allergic to dogs or anything, but he refused when I asked if he could watch him. Bear in mind that he's home most of the time because he's out of a job at the moment. His excuse for refusing to watch him was that he didn't know how he'd take care of him. But I've already taught him, and it's not hard to take care of an animal. It's not like I left a baby with him. After seeing me frustrated, he told me to just go and not worry about Leo because he'd take care of him. I was relieved, and for days, I kept trying to get him to show me Leo while video calling, but he'd say, "He's sleeping, he's in the other room," etc., etc. I got worried and I missed him so badly, so I decided to come home earlier. I arrived while my husband was asleep. I was shocked to find that Leo was tied outside and looking overall stressed out and confused. I had no idea why. I asked my husband, and he said that he tied him outside for just an hour because he was getting hyped up, and he wanted him to calm down. Little did he know that I left the camera running and found that he was being tied outside for days. I lost it. I went off on my husband and called him cruel and awful. He said he wanted to explain, but I kept lashing out till he broke down and started crying. I called him neglectful, irresponsible, a liar, and cruel for keeping Leo tied outside and making him feel unloved and isolated. He called his friend and went to stay with him. His mom called to berate me, saying I had no reason to yell at her son and cause him distress and a mental breakdown. I told her what he did to Leo, and she said it was my fault this happened after I pushed my husband to watch Leo despite being uncomfortable with it. But he said he would take care of him and lied about it. I was mad. I told him he should have let me know that I couldn't rely on him, but instead he went and mistreated my dog. His family's calling me vicious and abusive for continuously fighting with their son and blaming him for my own actions. They're expecting me to reach out to him and say I'm sorry, and I might do that, but I'm not sure if I'm to blame here. 100,000% I think OP's not the jerk. OP is absolutely right in saying that taking care of a dog for a few days or even a week is not a hard thing to do. You literally have to do 3, maybe 4 things. Make sure they have access to water and feed them every day. Keep an eye on them, obviously. If you don't have a dog door set up, take them outside every so often, especially if they're getting antsy or want to go outside. And if you want to go the extra mile, take them on a walk once a day. That's it. You'll make it just fine the entire week beyond that. Considering what they did and how they lied, I'm pretty sure those were crocodile tears. Our next story is by PerceptionSure4480. Am I the jerk for not tying my girlfriend's shoelaces? I'm 24-year-old male. My girlfriend, 24-year-old female, broke her hand recently. We had dinner with some of my friends last night. She insisted on wearing shoes with laces. I asked her how she planned on tying her shoelaces if they got untied. She said she'd make me tie them. I told her I wouldn't and that she'd end up breaking her other hand. I'm guessing she thought I was joking because her shoelaces did get untied when we were out with my friends, and she told me to tie them. I laughed in her face and told her to tie them herself. She stared at me angrily like I did something wrong by refusing to tie her stupid shoelaces that I warned her about. I avoided her for the rest of the night. I noticed her shoelaces were tied on the way home, so she probably made some poor guy tie them for her. She slept on the couch last night and won't talk to me. Am I the jerk? Honestly, if you told me that OP was just trolling and posting this story just to rile some people up and be like, "Oh, you're the jerk," I'd be willing to believe you. Like, is it a weird thing to tie your partner's shoelaces even if they didn't have a broken hand? Even for like an acquaintance, what's weird about helping them out if their hand's broken and tying their shoe? God forbid you gotta sacrifice the 30 seconds to bend over and tie their shoe for them. Our next story is by Throwaway the Study. Am I the jerk for refusing to give up my study for my stepdaughter? I, 41-year-old female, have been living with my boyfriend Matt, 40-year-old male, for 2 years, together for 4. Matt has a daughter, Phoebe, female 7, who lives with her mom, literally around the corner. It's maybe a 3-minute walk between our houses, so Phoebe spends a lot of time at ours, but always sleeps at her mom's. However, Phoebe's mom is moving to a bigger house because she's expecting another baby. This means Phoebe will be about 30 minutes away, so will be spending nights with us. We have what's technically a 2-bed house, but one of those bedrooms is my study. I work from home in a job with high data security requirements. Matt wants me to give up my study so Phoebe can have a bedroom. While I could technically put a bed in my study and share it with Phoebe, it would make it harder for me to work, and it would mean she couldn't be in her bedroom during working hours. I've suggested that we either move to a 3-bedroom house or look at converting our attic into a bedroom. Either of these options would involve borrowing money, and Matt has a near phobia of debt due to his chaotic childhood. I own our current house outright, having inherited it from my gran before I met Matt. I don't charge him rent, we split utilities and groceries proportionate to income. I cover all maintenance costs, but he helps out with the labor. He says I'm being selfish for putting myself before Phoebe. I say he's being selfish for the same reason. Considering OP is basically declaring that they're in a financial situation where they can afford to move to a bigger house, and this is a family of 3 with one working from home, I think you do need a bigger space. I think OP's not the jerk because they're willing and giving very realistic options to solve this issue, and if Matt's not budging on them, that's more a Matt problem. And our final story of the day is by AITA Sister Baby. Am I the jerk for refusing to look after my sister's baby anymore? I'm a 15-year-old female. My sister, who I'll call Millie, 18-year-old female, has a 6-month-old baby. Since she had her son, she's had to stop going to school and cut back on a lot of things, which has seriously affected her mental health. She's also not really been able to look after her son properly, and my mom and dad have basically been raising him since he was born. She still lives with us because she hasn't found an apartment yet, but she usually just stays in her room most of the time, and only comes out to breastfeed. However, she's normally out of the house. Since my parents work a lot, I've been the one looking after my nephew after school and during the weekends. I love him a lot, but sometimes it gets really tiring because, well, he's a baby and he needs a lot of attention and things done for him. It also means I can't do any after-school activities or go out with my friends. Yesterday, my sister was going out, and after breastfeeding, she brought my nephew into my room and told me it's time to look after him. I was studying for multiple tests, and I was already really tired, so I told her to look after her own son. She looked a little annoyed and told me to just stop and be with him. I was really angry and yelled at her that I'm not his mom, she is, and she's a terrible one at that. I guess what I said really hurt her because she started crying, and then her son started crying and it became a bit chaotic. My parents came in, and my sister told them that I was refusing to look after him. My dad ended up taking him away because he was still crying, and after he left, my mom began yelling at me for making them both upset. I told her that it's not fair for me to have to look after him constantly when Millie hardly ever does. And she called me selfish and told me to put myself in Millie's shoes because apparently Millie's dealing with postpartum depression and she can't look after him. I got angry and told her I'm not looking after him anymore because I'm not his parent. And Millie began yelling at me to just shut up because I'm not a mom and I don't know how it feels. And she ended up staying home because I'd triggered her. Since then, Millie stopped coming out of her room and refuses to even breastfeed my nephew anymore. And my mom's blaming me because she says everything was fine before and now I've ruined it. I feel really guilty now and I don't know whether I should have just looked after him. Am I the jerk? I think OP is not the jerk, and frankly I feel like something had to give here. A 15-year-old should not be having to look after their kid's 6-month-old baby. It's just not fair to a kid to have to be saddled with that kind of responsibility. Like, crap happens, sometimes it just has to happen, sure, but OP should not have to deal with studying for tests and have their very capable sister and mother of the child walk in and just try to hand the baby off to them. It's just not fair to OP, and I hope they don't give in to that guilt trip, because all they're wanting is for OP to do it and take all that responsibility and stress off their hands. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.